All right, here we go. We should be live in a few seconds. Whoever joins, thank you so much. It's a good morning in India. I'm gonna wait for a few more seconds. Let's see if this starts. Come on, come on. Okay, I think it started. Yeah, we are live. This is amazing, outstanding, cool, good progress. Let me quickly get my hands on my keyboard. I'm back to split keyboard, guys. I was using the Keychron one, but I was not really happy with it. I mean, I'm happy with it, but the thing with the split keyboard I bought is it gives me more comfort. So I keep hopping here and there. I don't think I still have a clear idea of what I want. That's okay. Doesn't matter. What we are going to talk about today is CPP File Manager file. Okay, we can just search for C++ File Manager and we can search for GitHub. And tada, this comes up. Oh, this is nice. Why is it because can I just start a incognito session and search for CPP File Manager? Nice. This is good. This is good. This is good. This is good. I see it on the top. So it definitely has the potential to be there, right where I want it to be, right? Good morning, Mama. Thank you so much for joining. I thought आप नहीं आ रहे हो, आप busy हो, but आप आए, उसके लिए धन्यवाद. हम आपके शुक्रगुजार हैं. आशा करते हैं कि आपका दिन शुभ हो, मंगल हो, और यही मंगल कामना के साथ आप वापस काम करने चले जा सकते हैं. इट्स ओके. थैंक यू सो मच. क्या बात है. अरे ओके. git clone git@github.com. PR Shimali CPP File Manager .git. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. And we're going to clone this repository. So what we're going to do today is we are going to walk through the code base of CPP File Manager. I would love to do more walkthroughs of other projects as well, but let's start with our own project because the easiest to start with is something that you have already in your bucket and then try to explore what others have. Okay. So let me quickly see what I can do with my, how we should go forward, right? So ideally any project whenever I start is the best way to do it is try to understand what it does, right? And then try to move forward, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tiling window manager in Windows. By the way, it's quite crazy that even Windows has a really nice tiling window manager, which I'm very happy about. So, okay, let me quickly talk about it, right? First of all, like, I hope everyone is ready for this live stream. If anyone wants to add any comment or has any question, please go ahead and ask these questions to me. But anyways, what we are looking forward to is okay, let me quickly close Team as well in case anyone invites me to play because I'm a pro player. I'm just kidding, I'm not. All right, this is getting close. Okay, right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through this project that I built around that. I mean, me and my friend were mostly working on, and we released the version 2.0 in December to December 5, 2022. But most of it came in 2020. That's the main release. Okay, so what I'm gonna start with is how I generally, go through projects. How do I do projects? How do I pick up any project that is not something built by me? Okay, so that's how we will try to look at it, and then we'll move forward. Okay, sounds good. If anyone has any queries, please put in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer. Okay, so that's it. Starting with the repository, the best way to start with is the README. It says C++ File Manager allows you to list files in C++, ignore extensions or just list specified extensions, and write the whole directory structure into a fancy tree-like structure which can be integrated in markdown files. Right, so this was something that always came into my mind, right? The motivation, like let's talk about the motivation first. Why did I do this project, right? Let me, I think I can do sudo apt install tree. So the motivation behind doing all this was that I wanted to understand in each README generally what you have to do is, suppose you're a senior developer and you have to guide your intern that, hey, this is the directory structure you're looking for. Please create this folder. Inside this folder, please create this file. Like in generally in web development as well, you will see that, okay, please create this templates folder. In templates folder, please create these files, right? It's very hard to even put that into words and trying to explain and try to explain, right? So the best way to do it is just go for it by creating this tree-like structure, right? For example, over here you see, now you share that with the person and it will be very clear what they have to do, right? It's very clear that GitHub is a folder, workflows is there, there's a file called build file manager.yml, right? So it gets immediately clear what this is all about. Now, of course, I wanted to add this option, and someone later showed me this thing that, okay, when you do tree, which is kind of a command in Linux, right? So you can see that it gives you cmake list.txt file, license, readme.md, fmanager, and all. So it already does that for you, right? So it's not like something that is probably reinventing the wheel. That's something I did, but at that time I was not really aware about it, or maybe if I was, I don't think it works on all the operating systems, right? So I don't think it will manually, like, let me just quickly check by opening PowerShell. I don't think this tree command exists, or tree command exists here as well, but with some, oh wow, it's huge. Yeah, okay. Tree command exists here as well. All right. So anyways, the thing is, we will try to see what we can give extra. Right now, it also gives you this nice colors as well, right? This is a binary, so this is colored differently. Include is a folder, samples is a folder. So this is something I would like to do as well. But right now, the CPP File Manager also acts as a file exchange, I mean a library. So it's not just a binary that you have created, it's also a library that anyone can use and try to list the files in a folder in their own C++ code, right? And there are lots of extensions we need to do with this. We need to improve by threading. We need to improve how we can approach the problem as well. There's a lot of good programming practices that we need to follow, and then we'll go for it. Okay, for now let's just continue with the readme. It says this is the first release, please file issues with feature requested on data, and we'll be happy to take a look at it. Yes, the C++ manager provides the following functions to users. First is clears the memory allocated to core path. Clear, if you can just pass the new path, whatever you want, it assigns a new path to the core path variable. Then you have info, prints the core path assigned to the file manager object to the console. So if you're like not sure what the core path is, you can just do info, and it will print out the path for you. Then there's very important function called list files. List files takes a vector of extensions, and it says whether you want to ignore those extensions or you want to include those extensions, right? So let's say you want only Python files in the given folder. What you can do is list files, just type python.py in a string, in a vector of string, and ignore extensions. Since you want files with those extensions, what you're going to do is you're going to pass it as false, and that's it. That's how you do it, right? Similarly with write to file, we'll come to that later. If ignore DARs, because when you're creating a tree, you want to ignore some .git and all folders, and that's how we'll go forward. Okay, but there's one more idea, that if there's a git what is dot, I forgot about it, .git ignore, right? So if there's a file called .git ignore in that current folder, what you could do is you can parse that file and just say that, because generally what this contains is whatever files or folders you want to ignore. So let's say by here I just say that, okay, I don't want .git, I don't want maybe I don't want init.py file, right? I don't want this to be committed. Okay, so in those cases I can just parse the git ignore file if a user wants me to, so that they don't have to write it by scratch again. Okay, so there are some, of course, some extensions we could do, but that's it. Let's try to use this now. We have already cloned the repository. I will not really go for these usage. Let's go with the build first, right? The very, very, very important way to do it right now, any project, is first build it from source, right? Try to build it. You will face a lot of problems. And see, the biggest thing is the current release only supports GNU or Linux systems. It also supports Mac OS. And I think I've tested the progress yesterday only, so it works fine. I haven't tested on Windows, but we'll see. I think we can test it today. But I believe there will be some unexpected errors. Okay, I need to install CMake. Sorry guys, I don't think I've developed mostly in C++ recently. It's my bad, it's my bad. Da, 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 da. Okay, so I'll do cmake dot and it's gonna compile. So what does really cmake do, right? Let's talk about it. So cmake is like just configuring your whole project, finding what libraries you have in the system, trying to make sure that okay, everything is good in terms of dependencies, making sure if you want to have autocomplete, it will also generate those automatic things for, I mean automatic whatever that is required for it, right? So by the default file that you should look at is cmake.list.txt file. It essentially defines the project config, right? This is what you have to write. So for example, I've set cmake cxs standard 17 cmake export compile commands on. What it really does is it generates this compile commands.json file, which guides the editor to like where should they look for all these autocompletes that you get in an editor. Okay. Anyways, so include ctest if I want to test. Yes, I'm using testing. Enable testing is something I've done. Include directories. What is the include folder? Okay, so include folder is one that you should include. Add library is very important. So this CPP file manager will be the name of the library, and you want this library to be compiled from src file manager.cpp. If there's any other dependency, you could have said second.cpp as well if there's a file called second.cpp, but we don't have it right now, so I'm just going to let go of it. Okay. Very important thing, if you look at ls, you will see, okay, I'll show you first. Let's do make. Okay, let's do make. What does make do? It just builds the project and generates a binary for you, right? So you will see that build files have been written to this folder and building cxs that's it. And you see it says building target cpp hyphen file hyphen manager. Why? Because that's what we named the library, right? If you remember in the cmake.list.txt, that's what we have done. Okay, and that's it. And it generates a .a file. Lib is the prefix that it automatically adds to any library file to stay consistent, and then whatever the library name is, it will be there. So it's very easy from there. What I can just do is I can do cp lib cpp file manager .a file, and I can now just share it with any of my friend, and it should work. But along with this, you also need the header file. So if you would see that a lot of companies say that okay, our source code is not there, but we have the header files available and we have the library. So that's how you make it usable, by making sure that your source code is not out. You want to prevent your source code, sure, you go ahead, you do that. But it's very important to just take a look at this. So if you look at this, right, this is a header file. This does not contain any implementation detail. How am I implementing it? If there's any algorithm that I want to hide from the people or public, that's how I can do that. I can just have the header file and I can just have the library file. Okay. If you look at the sample.cpp file, this is a sample I have. And how am I importing it? Right. So I'm just having file manager.hpp import, and that's it. That should be enough. Okay. And that will work. One important thing over here is if you look at the cmake list .txt file, this is how you link a library to your project. So I do target link libraries. You say that, okay, add executable. What we have done basically is sample.cpp will be compiled into an executable, which will be called fmanager. So that's what I'm saying. Okay, please compile sample.cpp into fmanager. Generally we have a.out, right? Similarly have fmanager as the name. Then you say that, okay, please link fmanager library with some these given libraries, and see make current source here libcpp file manager.a, right? So this is the file library file I'm looking for, and I'll just link the library to that executable, and that's it. And this will come back to this later. Okay, nothing else. I think everything else is okay. All right, so this is the sample.cpp file, because I have already only generated the library file. I haven't really generated the binary, and in order to generate the binary, I needed to add use a few tools in C++ to make sure that I have some command line arguments option. Okay, now I will leave it to you all, if any of you is here, to please tell me what do you want me to talk about first. Do you want me to go with the source code first, or do you want me to start with the sample file, or do you have any queries? If anyone is there and if they have any queries, please go ahead. Otherwise, I'll go with my pace. Tick tick 1, tick tick 2, tick tick 3, tick tick 4, tick tick 5, tick tick 6, tick tick 7. This is not Antakshari, guys. Tick tick 8, tick tick 9. Okay. All right, that was quick. You just got saved by a second. Congratulations. So let's start with the sample file first, right? I'm gonna show the sample how it works, and then we're gonna go to the sample file, right? Let's create our own terminal here. This NeoVim is so cool, I'm telling you. and people should start using NeoVim instead of VS Code. No, I'm just kidding. They should use whatever they want. Okay, nice. Okay, all right. So we have this here, right? What I can do is I can do F manager dot manager, right? So as I said, by default, it will list the files. Now, the way this is generated is if you go to samples folder, right, you see, I will try to make this. First, I'll do cmake, and this is done. Then I'll do make, and this is done. You see, it says build target F manager. This time it did not say build target lib cpp this.a. This time it didn't say that, right? Because it's basically building a binary. So we have F manager here. Let's try to just look at it. So F manager help, right? So these options, where do they come from? So if you're ever curious, how is this even working? Just pick up any of these, like any of this text, print usage, for example, just pick up this text. And what you do is, array, yeah. Okay, so just search for this print usage in your code base, and you will see that in sample.cpp, this print usage function has this usage options as a string, and that's what I'm doing. I'm printing it and then I'm exiting the code. This is very important, right? So how is this used now? See, what you want to do is you want to backtrack from there and say that, okay, where's print usage used really? So if you just search for it, you see that it's used here. Print usage information whenever the case H is mapped. If any of you like are kind of okay with C++, switch case statements are like, I mean, that's how they work. So you get a very easy hint that, okay, whenever H is there, you need to print usage, which is what is happening. You saw that when I did -H. So what is this opt, right? Like, so you see that get opt underscore long. I'm passing argc. Argc is basically the number of arguments you pass in command line. So if, for example, if I do g++ file.cpp, and if I do ta, so these are like number of arguments of 1, 2, 3, 4. In Korean language, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. That's how they do. But anyways, so this is get opt long. You take argc is number of arguments. Argv are is the list of a vector of whatever arguments you have passed. Short options, long options, we'll talk about it. Let's look at this now. So what is short options, right? It's very fun, right? So we have HP colon S colon L colon TD colon E colon this. So what is the, like, how is this even working? We'll talk about it. But let's also look at the long options, right? So in any binary, ideally you should be allowed to do both. If you see, -H was also allowed, -- help is also allowed. This is a long option, this is a short option, right? So this is very important. So long options, you have help. I'm saying whenever someone says help, they will say has arg equal to 0, because help has no argument. That's why we have 0. If you see, this says name is the first argument, has arg is the second argument, so no, it has no argument. Help is just going to be argumentless, spineless. And then you say flag is null pointer, we don't have any flag for it, and value is H. So I'm going to say, okay, short option, like whatever flag you're going to use is H, right? Then you have path. It definitely needs an argument, so that's why we have 1. I believe any argument that has an arc, you're gonna use a colon here. That's why P has a colon, because that's how it works. Then similarly, list files has no argument. Separator has an argument. That's why you have S colon, right? So a lot of times development is pattern matching. Just try to understand how is this colon changing. So if you see P has a colon, S has a colon, and D has a colon, E has a colon. So D has 1 here, E has 1 here, path has 1 here, separator is 1 here, and nothing else is 1. So it makes sense. That's what you can understand, right? And you can kind of just verify by looking at the documentation as well. But this is, I'm right, as always. Anyway, so no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not really. So help has a value H. Similarly, all of these are there, right? So that's just a way to look at it, right? And then try to just kind of call each and everything. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say dot F manager, right? And I'm going to say -P, which is what we saw as a path. It needs an argument. If you see, then it says option requires an argument. So let's give it an argument. I'm going to say, hey, I want this current folder. Okay, cool. It gave me the list of files in the current folder. This is nice, right? Now what I can do is I can actually go for and dot I can do, and it's going to give me the files in the previous folder. Cool. So this is how it works. It's really cool. Thank you so much for saying that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do again help, and let's go. Actually, you know what? Let's just look at how -p is working, right? So as I said, whenever you look at a feature, you try to backtrack and see how it's working. So if you see, of course, you now know that the switch opt is doing it for us. So we need to look at for case P, right? -p or hyphen path. So this is what we are doing. As I said, it takes an argument. So opt arg is something that comes up. Like if you kind of scroll up, opt arg. Okay, yeah. So I think by default opt arg is a, yeah, if you look at this, get, so in the header file that we have imported, this is extern char star, which is basically a string for communication from get opt to the caller. When get opt finds an option that takes an argument, the argument value is returned here, right? So whenever there's an argument that you're passing to the flag, opt arg is the value, like is where the value is going to be stored. Okay, so that's what we are doing. Path equal to opt arg, and path we have defined on the top. On the top, here you go. All right, yeah, hopefully this is clear. So that's what we are doing. We are just setting up the arguments. Now what I do is, if path equal to empty string, then I'm going to say that, okay, path is going to be the current folder. Why? Because path should be the current folder. And this is really bad, right? Why do you need to do this check if you can just directly do this? See, if someone has passed the path, it will change. Otherwise, let it be the current folder, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that default should be current folder. Okay, use -p if you want to change it, right? That's it. And I would even probably suggest you to use default folder path, right? And have a constant here, because these things are better suited as constant. Const char star default folder path equal to dot, right? Generally it's 2 default folder path, right? That's it. Awesome, guys. This is done. So now how it's used, right? Let's now scroll down. So if you see, none of this will be called because we have already only called P. Now we are at file manager. We are creating a pointer to this file manager. So we have created an object that is really a pointer to file manager. We check that if separator is not equal to empty string. I'll come to separator later on. Right now we haven't changed separator, so that's why we only have file manager. So we're gonna call this, right? If you want to clarify, if you want to just make sure that you are going on the right path, all you can do is you can add a statement over here and just make sure that you are on the right page. There's this thing I don't like, skipping the namespaces. If you are curious, I can talk about it, but it's a small thing. You don't need to do CMake. Right. So if you see this, this is what it says. Yo, this is working. Right. So that means that's definitely no other switch case was called. So hopefully you can understand that, okay, this is now getting called. Now it's very important to look at, okay, what this file manager constructor is doing. As I said, it will only point you to the header file. It will not take you to the source file. You have to go for it yourself. So I can probably just open in the split file manager.cpp. I need to exit this folder. I need to go back here, nvim do this, nvim dot. La, 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 la. Right, so this is what we have, and let's split it. Let's do horizontal split, and let's open samples, sample.cpp. Right, so if you remember, please look at the bottom. Let's get rid of this window. I don't think it's useful for you all. Okay, control shift. Okay, I forgot I really forgot it. Okay, anyways, so what I will have to do over here is, if you look at this, right, what I'm saying, okay, let's look at the constructor now, because why we are calling the constructor, Please look at this line, right? You look at this line, file is equal to new file manager. So let's go on the top, and you know how a constructor will look like, right? So if you just search for header file, right? If you look at this, I think header file will have the implementation. Yeah, there you go. Right? So whenever you're passing the path into the constructor, it's gonna say this core path equal to path. So I'm just changing the current path to the path I'm passing, and that's it. That's all I'm doing. Okay. So this is what this does, right? So here, over here, the output is that file core path is actually gonna be equal to what? Path, right? So that's what we are basically doing, but we can't access it because it's a private member. It's not a public member. Okay. So just remember that you can't access private members like this. Okay. That's why it's good to have it as a private member. Now what you need, okay. So by default, list files is what? If you, so you want to understand whether listing files is done or not. Now you remember, whenever I would pass, whenever I did this, I did not say that please list files for me, because if you go to the help, right, it says that -l is for list files. That means by default -l is true. That's our hypothesis. Let's clarify in the code itself. So you see in this current line, I hope you guys can see this line. So if you go to list files over here, where is it defined? It's defined here, right? And you see that by default list files is equal to true. What that means is by default, any command that you put, please always list files. Okay, so that's what I'm doing, and that's it. So now let's look at the implementation of what? List files, because that's what's being called. So if you see for auto const item ampersand item in file list files, because this is going to return me a vector of string or whatever, and then I'm just going to iterate them, and I'm going to print a name. I'm going to get to this r name and a name, I mean r name and name later on, but let's look at the list files for now. Okay, what does it do? Of course it's going to list the files for you. Ha, ha, ha. Right? But over here, the return type is std vector and file manager file info. Whenever you're reading a function, always look at the return type and the arguments type and try to look at the documentation over it. Now it's very clear that this function gets the extensions and whether you want to ignore them or you want to include them. That's what it takes as an argument. Now, what is this return type, right? Std vector file manager file info. Now, you're not very sure what this file info is. So you can just go to definition for this, and you see that this struct file info is essentially a struct with saying that name, rname, and sdir. Now, what is name? Over here, I've added this documentation. Good job, Kush. So this struct helps us to keep track of important information of the file. Name is absolute path. So when you want exactly the path that it exists, then you say this name. You want a relative name, you can go for this one as well, just the name of the file or directory. Is dir set to true if the entity is a directory, else false, right? So I wanted to always store for a corresponding file, whether it's a directory or a file, because I'm going to use it later on when I have this tree, then I'm going to iterate through it and all. So I knew that this is all metadata is very useful. And see, whenever you understand this, right, it's all primitive types. Primitive types, by that means string, bool, like you don't need to implement this extra overhead to the system, also to the assembly level code, that okay, this is a complex type, you need to add a few more lines of assembly level code to just have an addition function, right? So this is all good. This is good. We are going good. I hope you all are understanding what I'm doing. Now is very important, right? So what this list file is doing, so let's get rid of the upper split and let's only focus on this. Let me zoom it for you all so that you guys can see it properly. Please let me know next time if you can't see it properly. For now, I think this is fine. Let me change the theme so that we find it exciting enough. Nice. This is a nice theme. Okay. So you have the output, std vector file info, list files. So that's where, of course, we're going to store everything. Then you have base name, because what you're looking for is you want to find the which folder to look at, right? And as I said, I'm storing the core path over here. Yo, Saurabh, what's up? Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, bhai. Thank you for joining. अभी उठा गया तू? So you have core path over here, your R begin. So what essentially I'm doing is, see, there are two type of paths you can have. One is home kr shrimali. There is another that you can have is home kr shrimali and slash, right? This is in general. Okay, I can't yeah. So what I wanted to do is just make sure that okay, I append the slash to it. Not really the best way to do it, but I think that's how Most of our libraries will do it. So base name is either, I mean, base name is essentially, that's it, the core path, okay? Just with the added slash if it's not existing. Now what I'm doing is I'm using this didn't library. Good morning, bhai. So I'm using this didn't library. I remember this was didn't. If you look at the includes file manager, I need to fix this. So if you look at this, I'm including this didn't.h file, right? Which I don't think it works for Windows. That's why I had the query of whether it's not working for Windows or not, whether it's working for Windows or not, right? So anyways, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back over here. Just wanted to make sure that you all are aware. Let's go to list files again. Right, so I create this list files. By the way, this is very bad, right? Because the function name in output variable name is all fine. Just because C++ is a very hacky language, you should not do this. So what I can do is I can do, hey, can you please call it listed files output, right? Which is a better name for it and nothing will break. I can just rename it using amazing new vim. Right, so what I'm doing is I'm gonna use this didn't. Of course, whenever you iterate through a folder, you need to check whether the folder exists or not. So that's what I'm doing. If it exists, base name, I think this is the function that I've implemented. So again, we'll come back to it. How am I checking? But just for information, we first check whether the folder exists or not. Then I open that folder. OpenDIR is another utility in didn't.h header file. Sorry, and that's what it takes. It doesn't take a string, it takes a C string. If you remember, it was a cat star, it takes, not the string format, right? It just returns a dead object and then you read it. So there are two operations, right? Which is good. So they are basically saying that open is one operation and read is another option, because it could fail in open as well. Maybe the folder is corrupt, maybe something is wrong, right? There are n number of things that could happen. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, whatever dir you got, can you please try to read it? Okay, when you try to read it, you store that into ent, and once this is done, this should not be equal to null. If this is null, that means we have failed in read dir, and that's when we want to say that okay, something went wrong. Okay, so we are saying if this is not equal to null, that means ent contains the data that is read from the dir folder. Right, now I'm saying is bool include equal to false, stored string relative file name is what equal to dname, right? So this ent whenever you do that, read dir is going to give you a struct. I think so. We'll have to see. Maybe I can search for dname. Yeah, it defines the macro. If there is a dname length, that gives the length of dname. Okay, I don't know what this means yet. Yeah, I think, oh, it gives the length of the whatever you have, the folder, I think. So that's what it's doing. So relative file name is equal to ent dname. If relative file name is equal to dot or dot dot, you want to continue, right? Otherwise you want to create a relative file name and then you want to read that directory again. Why are we doing it? So in C++, whenever you do open a folder, right, each folder will contain these two formats. Let me show you. This is how it is going to look like. It's going to do dot dot. Let's say you want to visit current folder. It's going to do dot. It's going to do file 1 and it's going to do file 2. So this dot will always be there. That's why I'm kind of ignoring it. I'm saying that, okay, if any of those are equal to dot or dot dot, you continue, you skip those. Now you are at stored string file name equal to base name plus relative file name. Let's say whatever relative file name you got is krshimali. So the base path was this, right? And then entd name, let's say, is another projects folder, right? So what you want to do is you want to check whether you can open this folder or not. So if open dir for the given file name is equal to null, that means it's a file. If it's not equal to null, that means it's a folder. So you see what I'm doing? I'm checking over here whether this is equal to null. This means it's a file. I'm checking the extension now. I'm just making sure, okay, I'm getting the right extension. Then I'm checking if the dot command was found. So any file name will have .py, .json, .cpp, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm checking the position of it. Then I'm calculating the file extension, because once you have the position, all you need to do is you need to get the relative file name difference, right? So I'll explain you this thing, right? So let's say you have home krshimali main.cpp. Now until this base was what? home KR Shimali. Right? Am I right? Just ignore the spelling mistakes. Right? And what's the relative file name, right? Relative file name over here was what? Main.cpp. Right? So how would you check what's the extension? So what did I do? I said, okay, you find the position of dot, right, which you got already. Then you do relative file name, and over here this you do position of dot minus relative file name, right? So this is what I'm doing. Like, I think it just, yeah. So all I want is I want up to this until this, right? So from starting from dot, so from position until this end, I want dot cpp, which is the extension. That's how I'm gonna use it. Right, that's it. You get the file extension here. You get check whether extension is empty. Then you true, because why? When the extension will be empty, it's mostly in the case when, wait a minute. Oh, extensions, this is different. Sorry, this is the list we give, not that one, right? So I'm just checking. Okay, if you're given a list of extensions that you want or you want to ignore, if you haven't given, then you say that okay, include is equal to true. You always want to ignore include, right? And then what you do, if you I've created this sample method which says item in list. You check whether the given file extension is in the given list of extensions, and if it's not equal to, like, depending on the variable, ignore extensions. If it is in there, that means ignore extension, let's say, is also true. That means you want it, otherwise you don't want it. So that's how it works, right? And based on that, I have to already set include equal to true. And since this is a file I'm talking about, I'm going to say is dir equal to false. If it was a folder, I'm going to say is dir equal to true and include equal to true, because I want this to be included. But I'm saying is dir equal to true. Now, this is very important. If include is true, then you always push back. You create a make file. So I've created another helper which creates a file info object, which I already shared, right? So it, from the given file name, from the given relative file name, from the given is dir, it just creates the file info struct, and then it's pushed back to the list. Okay. So that's what's being done. If you want to take a look at make file info, I can quickly show that to you. Right, so it takes all these arguments, then it creates a file info struct object. It marks f.name, f.rname, f.sdir, and return f. That's it. Cool, 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 cool. Nice, good stuff. Okay, so that's it, right? And once you're done with all this, please don't forget to close the directory. That's the safest way to do it. Na 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 na. That's it. Khatam baat. You're returning from there. Thank you so much. This is amazing, guys. How many of you got the whole sense of it? Did you understand what I mean? Did you like it? Were you all able to figure out what we are trying to do here? Anyone? Any queries? Please go ahead and ask right now. I mean, in the future, you can also ask, but if everything good, we can proceed. I believe everything good. Okay, awesome. So there's one thing I will have to do is as well. I want to talk about separator. Like, let's first talk about tree, right? So whenever I do tree, I will have get tree.txt generated. It will contain the whole tree of the file. So you see that there are a lot of CMake files and there are a lot of make files. Now I don't want this in the tree because these are not really useful. So what I can do is I can do dot f manager. I can do help. I can say, hey, can you generate tree for me? But can you also ignore the extensions? I'm gonna pass them now. Okay, I'm gonna say I don't want cmake, I don't want make. Can you do this for me? And let's look at cat3.txt file. You see none of the files that have those extensions are here. This is outstanding stuff, right? Similarly, I don't want .idx, I don't want .ts as well, and I don't want dir. So idx, ts, dir, idx, ts, dir. Okay, remember this. Okay, so I'm just gonna use the previous command, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, okay, can I please add .ts, .dir, .idx? Ta-da! And ta-da! See, .dir is still there. Why? Why is why is still there? Because is it because it's an extension? We'll have to see. I hope .index is not there though. Yeah, index is not there. Something went wrong with the .dir. Need to check what went wrong. But anyways, I hope you guys get the point. I think we haven't. So this is only to ignore the file extensions, not the directory intent. And I feel that these are all directories, not really files. Cool. Anyways, irrelevant. I hope this is clear, right? So how does tree work? You can also take a look. I'm gonna probably stop here for any questions. I don't want to move too fast. If any questions, guys, please feel free to ask now. Otherwise, I will let go. That was a short stream, I guess. Don't wanna take too much of your time to waste in the morning. Na 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 na. Okay, I think we are done. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Appreciate it. That was a short 41-minute stream. In case anyone wants, by the way, I think I did commit something. This is how I create, by the way, like this is how I generally commit using lazy git. Mm, yeah, so what have I changed? I've changed file manager or CPP. I think I've added a few comments here and there, which I don't like, so I don't think I'm commenting anything right now. Cool. That's it, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This was the Great KRS streaming here on YouTube. No, I'm not great. I'm Kushash Shmali. Thank you for being here, everyone. Appreciate it. Lots of gratitude, lots of good luck to all of you. And to India for Asian Game Finals. Let's keep going. Take care. Thank you. Bye bye. I'll see you again. I think I'll stream again today. We'll see whenever I need to. Thank you. I need to eat something. I'm hungry. Bye.